the families of kids mercilessly murdered in Kumba and to cover the nation of Cameroon with his peace on this day of national mourning. And these stories and more will be told in this edition of the news. Good Saturday evening and welcome to the 7:30 news. I am Benin Bumagana in Yaoundé.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
We're very sorry for the late start of this newscast due to very serious technical fault. Military tributes have been paid to the students killed in Kumba by known state armed groups at the military headquarters brigade here in Yaoundé. Today's solemn flag lowering ceremony in observance of the Day of National Mourning was chaired by the Minister Delegate at the Presidency of the Republic in charge of Defense, Joseph Betty Asomo. Yves Fomuso reports.
A wailing nation, the national tricolour is lowered to half-staff at the Yaoundé military headquarters brigade. A 40-minute ceremony, solemn and moody, as the flag waves in grief for kids taken to the grave in Fiango Kumba, an indication that the entire nation honors the fallen. Under the full glare of Minister Joseph Betty Asomo, the military sets the tone for the day of national mourning in the country, which speaks of the hospitality and solidarity of the people. The fervor of the mourning will not differ. Amid a frenzied outpouring of grief, the military pays tribute, promising not to relent in protecting citizens. 7 kids saw their future cut short by unidentified gunmen last October 24, while others survived but with injuries. A waving flag at half-mast at the Yaoundé military headquarters brigade, telling of respect, mourning and distress.
Was still in Yaoundé where Christian faithful and clergy from different Christian denominations joined Muslim faithful and imams to intercede for peace in Cameroon and the bereaved families of the Kumba massacre. The interreligious service was organized by the Cameroon Association for Interreligious Dialogue to mark the Day of National Mourning as decreed by the President of the Republic. Joyce Kimbi Fowaju with highlights.
Notwithstanding their different religious dogmas, Muslims, Catholics, Protestants and Pentecostals, with one voice and on same altar, supplicate for God's mercy on Cameroon and on the transgressors of the Kumba killings. To all, never again such a massacre in the country.
And I believe that the government has to give the space to churches because we can just find a space so that we can pray hardly, so that God can deliver them, so they can be human again.
The souls of the innocent assassinated were remembered in prayers and comfort to the bereaved families raised. But a call was made for the Cameroon educational system to privilege religious studies to churn out moral minds instead of zombies. On the northwest and southwest crises, they prayed for the spirit of reconciliation, dialogue and pardon.
I need Cameroon to be one. To be united. If we cannot be united, there's no development possible in the time of war.
From the oneness demonstrated by the religious bodies, it reminded all that diversity in unity remains a plus that Cameroon could count on.
Let's go over now to the southwest region. Traditional rulers have called on the gods of their ancestors to avenge the blood of the 7 innocent children mercilessly massacred by armed separatist fighters in Kumba last Saturday, October 24. The cleansing ritual marked the observation of the Day of National Mourning in Buea, as we hear in this report by Fem Bunyu Ayise.
As one man, traditional rulers in Cameroon joined the national and international community to condemn in very strong terms the monstrous massacre of innocent school children in Kumba.
There is no reason why somebody will pull a trigger on an innocent, unarmed young man, young girl.
Drawn from all four cultural zones, the traditional rulers said no to war in Cameroon and yes to peace with the cleansing ritual at the reunification monument in Buea.
The perpetrators of this act, wherever they are and whoever sent them and whoever is teleguiding them, should understand that they have done evil. They have done a cruel thing to the nation.
The outing of traditional rulers, preceded by peace march to the Southwest Governor's office on the occasion of the Day of National Mourning, is telling of the fact that children's lives are sacred and shouldn't be harmed, even in times of war.
We stay in the southwest region, and this time we go over to Kumba, where families of the victims of the Kumba massacre are still unconsolable following the gruesome murder of their children last Saturday in Kumba. On this Day of National Mourning, they have, however, expressed gratitude to all those who are praying for them during these trying moments. Guy Roger Nana brings details from Kumba.
The families of last Saturday's victims of the Kumba murder are still unconsolable. 10-year-old Rema Akame's mother can't withhold the pain.
She was a very intelligent girl, a God-fearing one for that matter. Where Rema is, I know she's resting in the hands of the Lord.
At the home of 11-year-old Jennifer Anangim, her mother, grandmother and other members of the family are in tears.
Since that day, I've never slept, and I have not still come to realize that my daughter is no more. The family will never see her again.
Victory Kemimbom is simply seen as a hero. His father is very grateful for all the attention given him and his family at this difficult time.
I never knew the senior divisional officer can cry. But on that day, I saw her shed tears until I myself, which I'm the father of the child, I was really confused.
The families of these victims in their grief unanimously pray that those responsible for this act of wickedness on defenseless children should be captured and brought to book so that their children will rest in peace.
In Bamenda, in the northwest region, inhabitants who have tasted of the bitter pills of known state-armed men incursion have prayed that such a gruesome act never repeats itself again in Kumba in particular and the country in general. On this Day of National Mourning, the population also prayed for the bereaved families. Karin Tosam tells us more from Bamenda.
It is a special broadcast on a day of national mourning at the CBC radio in Kwen neighborhood in Bamenda. Besides the radio content is the appeal for God's comfort for the affected families.
Prior to this day, we've had a number of prayer sessions here about God's peace to abide, especially with the bereaved families, and God should help us put an end to this senseless war.
A similar broadcast pattern stretches for over 3 hours on CRTV Northwest. On the streets, inhabitants still carry fresh memories of the incident.
For their parents, I would just tell them to hold their hearts. As for the mourning, I respect the day myself, even though I'm not putting on black.
The population here are calling on government to ensure that justice is rendered in memory of victims of the October 24 massacre in Kumba.
The decision to invite the entire nation for a time of prayers and supplication was decreed by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, in memory of the 7 students brutally killed in Kumba last October 24. Ibneza Akanga recalls what happened on that day.
On Saturday, the 24th of October 2020, more than 10 separatist terrorists armed with guns and other dangerous weapons who came on motorbikes stormed the campus of Mother Francisca International Bilingual Academy School in Kumba. They opened fire on the school children. 7 children, whose ages range from 9 to 12 years, were killed in the attack. 13 others were injured, some of them seriously. The brutal killing of the children sent shockwaves across the country and the world, with the barbaric act strongly condemned by all. The same day that the killings occurred, the Prime Minister chaired a crisis meeting, after which the head of state dispatched an interministerial mission to Kumba to convey condolences to the bereaved families and make an assessment of the situation. The interministerial mission disclosed that the head of state has given instructions for all the injured children to be treated free of charge and for their families to be assisted. On the 28th of October, the head of state declared Saturday, October 31, 2020, as a national day of mourning for the 7 children.
And as Cameroon prays and mourns the heartless murder of 7 children in Kumba by known state armed men, the national and international community continue to express indignation and condemnation of the massacre. Ebenezer Kanga comes back to say, to put together some of the condemnations in the following report.
Strong condemnations continue to come from the political class, the civil society, non-governmental organizations and associations following the gruesome killing of 7 school children in Kumba by separatist terrorists. In a press release, the Human Rights and Freedoms Movement strongly condemns the barbaric, cowardly and inhumane killings. On its part, the association called Stand Up Africa calls for an end to the killings.
I strongly condemn this barbaric act. These killings should stop.
Another strong condemnation comes from the National Bureau of WCPDM that says defenseless civilians have been unjustifiably attacked by ruthless and insensitive individuals in total disrespect of the sanctity of life. Political parties of the presidential majority exhort the state to take its responsibilities firmly and make sure the killers are arrested, judged, and sentenced according to the laws of the land. In Kumba, that is the epicenter of the tragedy, the school attack is condemned in very strong terms.
It was just unimaginable that any human being, any group of human beings could turn around, pick up a gun, and pull a trigger, point-blank range, at children.
The long and short of all the condemnations is that never and never should such killings occur again in Cameroon.
Muslims and Christians in Garoua, that is in the north region of the country, have denounced the killing of school children. While observing the day of national mourning, the imams and pastors during their respective services enjoined the Christians and Muslims to pray earnestly for God's peace. Winston Mengole has highlights of the services.
At the St. Therese of Jesus Cathedral, Garoua, Christians raising their voices high to God Almighty to reinstate peace in Cameroon and put an end to attacks like the recent at the Mother Francisca Bilingual College, Kumba. We are asking God to appease our hearts. Peace to all Cameroonians who've witnessed this dramatic situation.
Vivre des situations dramatiques.
It was a similar atmosphere at the courtyard of the Lamido of Garoua, His Majesty Alim Gaga Hayatu, where imams and other notables prayed to Allah.
The instruction of the Lamido of Garoua, we did the prayer of peace for the Cameroon.
The hope of the population of the North region is that security in schools in the crisis-stricken regions beefed up in order to keep the students, pupils and teachers out of harm's way.
In Douala, the clergy and laity from different Christian denominations, imams and other Muslim faithful interceded for peace in Cameroon and for families of students brutally killed in Kumba. The ecumenical church service took place in the presence of administrative authorities of the region led by Governor Samuel Jerone Vaha Diboa and Sports and Physical Education Minister Professor Narcisse Mwele Kombi. Scholar Maloke reports.
The Bible says, it is appointed unto men wants to die, but after that, the judgment.
It was with heavy hearts that women and administrative authorities in Douala prayed in unison for the souls of the 7 kids who were killed while in school by unidentified armed men last Saturday, October 24th in Kumba. The different clergy invoked the Almighty to take control for the end of the crisis and for peace to return in Cameroon.
The population of the littoral region as a whole are just saying that stop to these barbaric actions.
Women who took part in the interreligious prayer have lauded the initiative.
I'm a bit satisfied that the nation has done something so remarkable.
In prelude to the ecumenical service, the women dressed in black and red carrying messages denouncing the barbaric acts marched from the central post office to the Beseke ceremonial ground, singing and crying.
And in the Bolivar, today's gloomy, and in the West region, today's gloomy atmosphere across the national territory acted as a spur to the governor of the West region. Our Fonka Augustine, who has, on behalf of the population, extended condolences to the bereaved families of last Saturday's school killings in Fiango Kumba. The governor was speaking shortly after presiding at the ceremony to hoist the flag at half-mast as decreed by the head of state. Chancellor Nancy completes that story.
A gloomy atmosphere at the esplanade of the South Governor's office this October 31. Administrative authorities and a cross-section of the population dressed in black.
We are praying that such sad event should never happen again in Cameroon.
After the hoisting of the flag, which is flown at half-mast, a college of pastors and Christian faithful from different denominations across the town walk and lament on the streets.
We don't have any right to kill children that are going just to study.
The caravan then makes a stop at the Paul Biya Square downtown Bolova to pray for peace.
I want to tell those people who did it that please don't try that again, because the thing have made the whole nation to cry.
The people of Bolova, situated 424 kilometers away from Kumba, have reiterated their unconditional love for the people of Kumba, the northwest and southwest regions.
Well, rather, we were getting the population of the South region praying and crying out to God for such a thing never to happen again in Cameroon. Now, let's get over to the West region, where I was telling you that the gloomy atmosphere across the national territory acted as a spur to the governor, who has, on behalf of the population, extended condolences to the bereaved families. Let's listen to this report, or follow this report, by Chancellor Nancy.
The national flag flown at half-mast says it all. Cameroon is in mourning, lamenting the gruesome murder of innocent school children whose only crime was the quest for education. The governor of the West region presided over the flag hoisting ceremony in Bafoussam.
It's an occasion for us to share the pains of the bereaved families. We may have differences, but these differences can be sorted out through dialogue, not through killings. It's heartbreaking for any father, for any parent. It's traumatizing for any child to see his mate killed in such a drastic and barbarous manner. So we're calling that we should continue to live in peace, and that today should be a turning point for our country.
Similar ceremonies took place at the West Legion of the National Gendarmerie and at the 9th Military Sector. The flag was also flown at half-mast in all public service buildings in Bafoussam.
And Christians of the Église évangélique du Cameroun have joined Christians and Muslim faithful the nation over to pray for the families of kids killed in Kumba and to condemn the massacre. Victor Siga brings us a complete report of that service.
Clad in mourning colors, these Christians of the Église évangélique du Cameroun came to pray for the repose of the souls of victims of last week's deadly shooting at a school in Kumba, and equally to express compassion to bereaved families.
Through this moment of prayer, we want to call to our
conscience and to call to all people in Cameroon to know that we should respect the life of the others.
While praying for the return of peace in Cameroon, the clergy enjoined Christians to be beggars of peace.
We ask all Cameroonians to turn their eyes and their heart towards God and learn to respect life. And the life of children is so precious for God.
Prior to that, they toured the streets of Yaoundé, carrying along messages of peace to express their discontent at the crisis the country is facing.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
In our fight against COVID-19, our tour to the region today takes us to the north region of Cameroon to find out the number of COVID-19 patients under intensive care and how the treatment is going on for them. Baldwin Sama is at the Public Health Emergency Center here in Yaoundé to engage his guests in a video chat on how these COVID-19 pandemic patients are faring. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Benin Bumagana. Our tour to the different regions this Saturday takes us to the north region of Cameroon, where we shall be discussing with the North Regional Delegate of Public Health as concerns and assessment for the zero prevalence campaign launched recently in that part of the country. Madam Regional Delegate, good evening.
Good evening.
Tell us, Madam Regional Delegate, do you have any, what is the situation of our patients under intensive care in the north region of Cameroon? Do we have any?
Okay, thank you. Actually, we have not registered intensive care patients. The last hospitalized case dates back to September 2020.
Finally, Madam Regional Delegate, tell us what's the epidemiological situation in the north region of Cameroon as of tonight?
Okay, on date, the epidemiological situation in our region has reported 199 positive cases, including 7 active cases. We record 179 recovered and 13 dead.
Thank you so much, Madam Regional Delegate Dr. Jamila Tulela, for being a guest on the 7:30 newscast this evening. Benin Bumagana, that's the situation on this Saturday evening. Tomorrow, Sunday, we shall be taking our viewers over to the Adamawa region of Cameroon. Back to you, Benin Bumagana.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama from Camer. This press release in the capacity of personal representative of Mrs. Chantal Biya, spouse of the head of state, founding president of the Circle of Friends of Cameroon, CERAC, Mrs. Christine Solange Lay, regional delegate of CERAC for the East, will chair the ceremony for the handing over of donations to rural women, youths and health facilities in Diang, Lom Manjere Division, East Region, and the restitution of a training in mushroom cultivation on Concop on Sunday, November 1, 2020 at 11 a.m. prompt in strict compliance with anti-COVID-19 prescriptions. It is signed the Director of the Civil Cabinet, Samuel Mvondo Ayolo. In our book of the week today, we go through Julinta's book, Marietta, and her Pink Towel book, which highlights family love, socialization, childhood, and as key themes of the document. The author's first publication was launched in Yaoundé at the Akomamba Publishing House this Thursday. Joy Starter read through the book and tells us more.
She hurries into Mbamba Anna's room, her grandma, to make sure that her pink towel is still in its usual position. Lines found in Marinetta and her little pink towel. Jolinta's vision to inculcate a reading spirit in our little ones today, using simple language and colorful illustrations.
We want to show that our children are motivated to read and to learn how to write. We want to show also that young people are waking. They have passion. We want to know that small people are telling us things. We need also to open our eyes, our ear, and to listen to them.
The author displays important aspects of life, like showing love as a family and not allowing the duty of bringing up a child in the hands of housekeepers alone. The 32-page book also presents a brief evaluation at its end to facilitate retention and awaken the child's mind. The 5-year product officially launched at the Akomamba Publishing House in Yaoundé, consequently available henceforth for public consumption in Cameroon's 2 official languages.
Thank you very much for watching the 7:30 news. Once again, we're sorry for the late start, as we said, due to technical errors. In a newscast where we said Cameroonians from all religious backgrounds have prayed for peace on this day of national mourning. At 8:30 p.m., Arthur Badinoma will be here, and I'll be back tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. God bless you.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing